referendum. Order, order. We start with questions to Secretary of State for Transport, Paramoon.
Question 1.
Minister.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to answer this question along with questions 7 and 18. The government supports zero-emission vehicles through taxation incentives, vehicle grants and by funding infrastructure rollout. In January this year, EV sales were 42% higher than in January 2024, and the recent NAO report showed we are on track to meet the 300,000 public charge points needed for expected demand in 2030.
Mr. Speaker. Electric vehicle demand is increasing. The government's commitment to banning the sale of new petrol and diesel vehicles by 2030 will have a significant impact on UK emissions, but there remain many misunderstandings and myths about electric vehicles. They are safer, cleaner, and whole life costs are significantly cheaper. But what can the government do to increase consumer confidence by dispelling some of the nonsense peddled by vested interests?
Minister.
Well, my honourable friend's expertise in this field is very welcome. Showcasing the benefits of EV ownership and the growth of the public charge point network are vital to supporting the transition away from diesel and petrol-powered cars. As he will know, EV drivers can save hundreds of pounds a year, and the average range of a new EV is now 236 miles. That's about 2 weeks driving for most people, and of course it's cleaner and greener. We're working closely with industry stakeholders to promote positive messaging around EVs and improve consumer confidence.
James Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the challenges facing people moving to electric vehicles is charging infrastructure, particularly in inner cities. Local authorities have worked to try and help this, but they have limited resources. My old team at Nottingham Council was able to do a deal with Uber, which has supplied 400 on-street charging units. Does the Minister agree with me that this sort of partnership, using public sector actors with private finance, could help resolve this? And could the government look at ways they could work with local authorities to secure these kind of private-public partnerships?
Minister.
Well, it's great to hear about Newham Council's partnership developed under my honourable friend's leadership. The £381 million local EV infrastructure fund does just as he suggested and is expected to deliver 100,000 charge points across the country, supporting those drivers without off-street parking to switch to electric vehicles.
Sarah Coombs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The future of the car industry is very important to West Brom, and that future lies in electric vehicles. One of the key issues on the demand side is that consumers don't have enough confidence in second-hand EVs, despite manufacturer warranties and actually increasingly good battery life. So can I ask the Minister what steps the government is taking to improve consumer buyer confidence in getting second-hand EVs?
Minister.
Well, my honourable friend will be pleased to know that 1 in 3 used electric cars are now under £20,000, and data suggests that owners should expect an EV to last just as long as an internal combustion engine car. The United Nations Economic Commission for Europe have developed a new global technical regulation which would set standards for the lifespan of an EV battery and its minimum durability, and we're currently analysing options for the implementation of such regulations in the UK.
Sir Christopher Chill.
Mr. Speaker, what the Minister says is all very well, but why doesn't the government support my public electric vehicle charging points exemption from value-added tax bill?
Minister.
Well, I'm sure, as he knows, matters relating to taxation are a matter for the Treasury rather than for this department, but I'm sure that the Chancellor will be looking at the proposals he brings forward.
Where are those?
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the increased uptake of electric vehicles, and indeed, we need to still dispel many myths. In my constituency in Bath, charging infrastructure is still a big issue, and what emerges is that really the distribution networks struggle to speed up in order to connect to the infrastructure that is needed. Can she outline what work she will be doing with distribution networks in order to increase electric vehicle charging networks expansion?
Well, I thank the honourable member for her question, and as I'm sure she knows, there has been a rapid increase in the rollout of electric charge points. It was up over 40% last year, but she's absolutely right. In some cases, it is difficult because it's held back by the availability of capacity on the network, and that's precisely why we're working across government, including with my colleagues in the Department for Energy and Net Zero, to unblock those things so that we can ensure that everyone can access the electric vehicle charge points that they need close to home.
James Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for her answers. Minister, I'm not a petrol head, but I do love my diesel vehicle. Those of us who live in the countryside understand that to have a diesel vehicle is incredibly important, and there aren't any electric charging points across the rural countryside. There need to be more of them in the high street, more of them in the shopping centres, and there needs to be definitely more in the countryside where those of us who live and are disadvantaged by the electric car process as it goes forward. So can I ask the Minister this question? What's been done to help all those in the countryside, the rural community, those of us who live there and those of us who represent them, to ensure that they can always take advantage of electric cars as well? The charging points aren't there, the system doesn't work.
I think he's already been charged. Come on, Minister.
Well, the honourable member makes a really important point about ensuring that everywhere across our nation has access to electric vehicle charge points. We committed £200 million in the autumn budget to support charging infrastructure rollout, and that's bolstered by over £6 billion in private investment committed to 2030. He'll be really pleased to hear there are over 73,000 public charge points in the UK, with over 20,000 added in the last year, and a 45% increase in rural charge points in the last year.
Shadow Minister Greg Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw attention to my entry in the Register of Interests. Last year, just 1 in 10 consumers buying a new car chose battery electric. The private market for battery electric in 2024 was 20% lower than government intervention had tried to manipulate it to be. Without fleet sales, which we know are warped by huge tax incentives over practical vehicle choices, electric car demand just isn't there. So when will the Minister understand that people are crying out for a different way to defossilise and decarbonise their private vehicles? Battery electric just isn't popular, and when will they stop trying to tell people what they should want? This is just a government knows best attitude at its very worst, isn't it?
Well, Mr. Speaker, one absolutely astonishing intervention by the member opposite. It was his government that introduced the zero emission vehicle mandate, and we are not proposing to change the trajectory that they introduced. I would, however, gently remind him that many fleet vehicles are in fact private vehicles, as people choose to lease their vehicles or access them through a salary sacrifice scheme. And last year, the UK was the largest market in Europe, in fact in the world, for EV vehicles. He's talking nonsense.
Greg Smith.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the SMMT report in January simply doesn't back up what the Minister just said. I repeat, only 1 in 10 actual consumers, the people we all represent in this House, actively chose to have a battery electric vehicle. And as the Minister knows from her time on the Transport Select Committee when we looked at the future of fuel, there are other technologies out there. The government likes to say it's technology neutral, but the ZEV mandate's myopic focus on the tailpipe rather than whole system analysis effectively denies our innovators the room to defossilise and decarbonise in a manner that real consumers want. Surely the Minister sees that, and instead of trying to force people to buy battery electric, will they just get the bureaucracy out of the way and let our innovators innovate?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the Minister has actually met any vehicle manufacturers at all, because if he had, he would know that vehicle manufacturers are investing incredibly heavily on the switch to battery electric vehicles. I and my ministerial colleagues have met manufacturers representing 95% of the UK car market to understand their concerns. I will be working with them to ensure we support all UK vehicle manufacturers who have, as they would put it, bet the house on the transition to electric vehicles.
See you later, lads.